Chapter 28. The odor of urine and feces and sweat fills the small boxcar, even with the door open. The air is thick and stagnant. My stomach turns as the heat of our bodies makes the smell even more pungent. I hear someone retching, then the sour smell of vomit. I want to close my eyes, sleep, but when I do, the faces of others on this train with me flash through my mind. I see their lives and what they're running from. I see fruitless farms and families with nothing to eat. I see people held at knife point. I see money exchanging hands. I see blood and smell fear. I hear threats and feel intense desperation. So I keep my eyes open, focused on the door of the boxcar. When you watch the dark for hours, it's not hard to focus on the noise you hear. Mostly you hear your own voice telling you all kinds of things, like maybe you were meant to die, that maybe your fate is your fate, and there is no way to escape your fate, that maybe your body is too tired, too weak. You hear the voice of giving in, of giving up, but there's another voice too, that comes from the pit of your stomach, and the voice that says, you deserve to live. Look what you will do, what you will put yourself through, just for a chance. You hold on to that voice, and you make it louder and louder until it fills up your head. You listen to it as long as you can, because you know how it goes silent as you ride. You know how it gets drowned by other voices and the sound of the train. And then you have to find it all over again. Over and over you find that voice. Over and over you lose it again. For miles and hours you play this game until you watch the darkness fade and the sun come up and the sky somehow, like a miracle, ablaze again. I look at the guy and his girlfriend. She's sleeping. He's not. He's watching the day rise outside, too. And his face is lit up in what a way. For a minute, I see his hopes and dreams. For a minute, I hear his voice, his thoughts, how he wants to get her there safe, how they will get married, how they will have children. He just has to get them there safely. He turns his gaze on me, and I look away. The train screeches, Chico's eyes flutter. I hold his head in my lap, trying to minimize the jostling he feels as the train trembles and screams. Trees and ramshackles, buildings blur by the past the opening. More people on the train wake up, and now in the daylight I see there are even more of us than I realized. Maybe more than 100, and that's not counting the small children swallowed up by the crowd, who I don't see but can hear crying and asking for food. Someone close to the opening yells that we must be in Istapex, and after a while he yells that we're near the train yard. An industrial warehouse, ugly and solitary, come into view as we rumble in and come to a gasping lunch stop. Everyone from the boxcar begins climbing off the train as they walk into the sunlight. I see them covered in the remnants of the dust and powder of whatever this train car carries. They look ashen, they look like corpse. I look down at my clothes, my hands, and I know I just look like them too. Pulga and I lift Chico up, as the guy helps his girl off the train. Let's follow them, Pulga whispers to me, nodding toward the guy and the girl. That's the guy knows what he's doing. I know, and we hurry to the exit, helping Chico, who is awake but looks stunned, and keeps holding his head and leaning on us. The sun is bright and blinding, and Chico shields his eyes. People are stumbling across the field, looking around, and that's when Pulga spots the couple. No way, hermanos, the guy says, as soon as he notices us following them. My girl may have a soft spot for you, but you can't be following us. I'm not a polero, or any shit like that, and I don't want to be responsible for the three of you. I look at his girlfriend. She reminds me of Leticia years ago. Pretty, even in all the dirt and dust and heat. She looks at us like she would like to help, but this is the much as she can do. Come on, Pulga begs. We won't bother you, I promise. We'll stay out of your way, please. Chico drops suddenly, like his legs have given out, and he sits down in the dirt. Chico, I say, bending down next to him. Get up, Chico. Come on. Shh, the guy says, putting the finger on his lips. I don't want to know his name, or yours, he says to each of us in turn. Please, Pulga begs, looking between the guy and his girlfriend. The guy takes a deep breath. I'm going to say this once, and that's it, so listen to me, okay? He puts his hand on Pulga's shoulder. Your brother can't go on this way. Right now. But we have to, Pulga says. But I know the guy is right. Chico can't go on like this. I said, listen, he says. He needs to rest for a few days. He cannot run. He cannot be running to catch this thing, or riding it, being thrown around for hours. Chico's skin is a grayish pale, and even though he's sitting there listening to us, his eyes, when he opens them, have a kind of vacant look. You're okay, right, Chico? Pulga says. You can go on, right? Tell him you're fine, he said, gesturing to the guy. Chico nods. Yeah, yeah. It's just the sun. It's too bright. He holds on to his head. My head is pounding. Pulga, I say, realizing there is no way this guy is going to let us tag along with him any farther. Realizing that Chico needs help. He can go on, Pulga insists to the guy. He sounds like he used when we were little and he was begging his mama for something. He'll rest right here while we wait for the train to take off. Pulga gestures back to the train on the track. We take it too. Hold on. He jerks his backpack around, rummaging for his notebook. The guy stares at Pulga, then points to the tracks next to the ones we just came from. You go on the next train on that track, he says. That one heads to Matissa Romano. That's the one you want to be on, the guy says. I just follow the others until you get to La Chiria, okay? Then you have to decide which route, man. Forget it. I can't be explaining all this to you three. You should have figured this stuff out. I did. Pulga spits out, holding up his notebook. I studied the maps, listened to stories. The guy laughs. Stop. This is exactly why I can't be helping you. You know you're not going to make it, right? Not this time around. Not even with your little notes. This trip takes more than one try. There's shit you won't know. Mistakes you can't avoid. Until you're actually doing it. Then you try it again. Fuck, man. This is like my fourth time. I've almost died on these trips. I didn't come all this way to help you. I have to focus on me and my girl. Do you understand? On getting us there. I can't be looking out for no one else except me and her. He looks at his girlfriend. Her eyes are full of tears. Now look, you're getting my girl all emotional. He shakes his head, looking at us again, then turns away from Pulga and me. Sighs. Look down, that way is a shelter. Most people don't know about it, or go there, because you have to backtrack. Only those who can't go on the right way go. He looks at us. You guys need to stay put. Follow the tracks, but keep your eyes open for a small blue house, about a quarter of a mile down from the tracks. You'll get help there. Stay there for a few days, catch the next train that leaves here. Got it? That's it. That's all I can do for you. Please, man, please, Pulga says. I stare at his pleading face, and I swear I can feel the fear in his heart. Last night scared him. Maybe he's afraid if we don't keep going, we'll die. Maybe he's right. Listen to me, hermano. Just trust me. It's the best thing you can do. Get your little hermanito checked out, okay? He turns his back and on us and grabs his girlfriend by the hand, leading her to the other side of the other train on the other track. She looks back once, but the guy, he doesn't look back at all. I'm sorry, Chico whispers, and he squeezes his eyes shut. It's my fault. I'm sorry. Pugla shakes his head. Forget it, he says, but his voice is tight, angry. Chico starts crying, and I see how Pulga presses his lips tighter, like he's fighting back, saying something terrible. Let's go, I say, reaching for Chico's arm gently. Let's go. Let's get you where you can rest and feel better, okay? I lead him back down the track in the opposite direction as everyone else, away from where we need to go. We are the only ones going backward. Pulga turns back every few steps, like he's hoping the guy might have changed his mind, shaking his head like we're making some kind of terrible mistake. Finally, he gets on Chico's other side and helps me hold him up as we walk. It's scary to see how dead he already looks. His eyes look empty, and I think of how people say that those on the train turn to mummies on this trip. You okay? I ask him. He nods, then wobbles and holds his head tighter. We'll be there soon, Chiquito, I say, but he suddenly doubles over and starts dry heaving. I rub his back as he keeps heaving, his body shaking. Hey, Chico, it's okay, you'll be okay, Pulga says. Rushing over to Chico, I try to keep panic from talking over. I tell myself he is just dehydrated, or it's just the brightness of the sun orientating things and making him feel sick. It'll be okay, Pulga repeats as we help him up and head to the shelter. Don't worry, Chico, I say, but the words run dry in my mouth. The shelter is not that far, but with Chico getting weaker with each passing second, it takes us forever to walk through the thick, dry grass, the draining heat, and we spot it only because the guy told us about it. It's the blue paint. It's faded, so partially white, and it's not very visible, sitting in the overgrown grass. More panic sets in as I wonder if anyone is even there. The place looks like it's falling apart, but as we get closer, I see there are a few people sitting outside, and then there is a woman rushing outside to us as soon as she spots us. What happened? She says, looking Chico up and down. He fell pretty hard off the train, I say. She scans his body as if making sure it's complete. Come on, he needs to sit down. She moves me and Pulga out of the way and grabs Chico with impressive strength and helps him the rest of the way into the shelter. Inside, she sits him down, gives us all water, tells Chico to drink it slowly. She asks him simple questions, his age, his name, where he is from, but he just stares back at her, fixated on her face. But he's got a bad concussion, she finally says. You all will need to stay here. Give him time to recover. How long? Pulga asks immediately. She sighs. Concussions can take weeks to get better. This the stay here is limited to 3 days, but we'll overlook that since we haven't been crowded lately. She looks around at the almost empty room. We can't wait even 3 days, Pulga says to me. We have to keep going. If you don't wait, he's going to shake that brain around more, the woman says, and you're risking more swelling. You don't have a choice, I tell Pulga. You can't go on like this. I'm so tired, Chico whispers. I want you to sit there. Talk to me for a while, the woman tells Chico. Then I'll let you sleep, okay, Nino? Chico nods. The woman looks at Pulga and me. Her face is shiny, and her cheeks are round and high. She smells like ponds, and for a moment I'm taken back to the bedroom I shared with Mommy after Papi left. How she would rub the lotion on her face each night before bed, and she'd stare into the mirror, looking at my image in bed, reflected there. We'll be okay, Mommy would say to me. Those nights when he first left, when we were both scared and lonely, and then she'd crawl into bed. The smell of her filling my nose as we fell asleep. The woman looks at us and says, You two get something to eat over there in the kitchen. Bring him something too. Wash your hands first. I hear her talking to Chico, making sure he answers her. When she is satisfied, she leads him to a room so he can sleep. Pulga and I eat bread, drink glasses of Gatorade, but she warms up some beans and plops them on our plate too. She watches us as we eat, as we scratch our heads. Come here, she tells us. She grabs a thin wooden stick from the drawer and runs it through my hair, parting it and examining. I know, I tell her before she says anything. I suspected I have lice for days. She checks Pulga's head too, and then sighs. It's better if you shave your head off, then use some shampoo to kill what remains. I have some. She smiles. She grabs some shears and points us to a chair in the living room, telling Pulga to sit first. She starts to sing softly as his hair falls down in the small clumps, sitting there with his eyes closed. He looks so little when he's done. She points to me. Your turn, she says. One of the people who was sitting outside comes in and laughs. He's a short man wearing only a pair of too big shorts and a thin white t-shirt. This is a record, Soldad. They're hardly here more than 15 minutes. And already you're shearing their hair off. Está Soldad, he says, shaking his head. She'll use those shears while you're sleeping if she has to. He laughs and she laughs, and the sound fills the room. It's just I can't bear the thought of you all having to go on like that. Her laughter dies down. You're not animals after all, she says. Come on, help me. Sweep this hair up, she tells the man, and he nods, grabbing a broom and dustpan. What's your name? I ask her. Soldad. She nods as she runs the shears through my hair. Can you believe that? You don't like it? No, she says immediately. How could I ever like a name like Soldad? It's so sad to be named a loneliness. When I was little, I hated it because it sounded like a name for a grown-up, and now I hated it because it sealed my fate. I know she must mean she is lonely, but I don't want to pry, so I keep myself to myself. Even here I am alone, she says, looking around the shelter. This shelter is falling apart. Only the most desperate come here. Most times migrants keep going because they feel strong enough to make it to the next one. But I like being here. I'm here for those who are the most desperate, who need help the most, and people, generous people with giving hearts, help us stay open, help us survive. Pulga stares at her and then looks away. Something about the way she talks about me feel close to her. She stares at me suddenly, studying my face closely. So what's your name? She asks. I know, she says, so I don't lie. Pequena. Pequena, she shakes her head. That's not good. It will keep you small. What's your real name? My real name. After I feel like I don't have one. Already I feel like the person who walked the streets of my neighborhood, who lived in the house and slept in that bed. Already I feel like that person who doesn't exist. And I don't know if she was left behind or if she disappeared, like water evaporating over the bushes, buses, and fields and trains. Who had I been when my mother looked at my face the day I was born? Floor, I tell Soledad. Her shiny face breaks into a smile. Ah, Flor, she repeats. Now that's much better. I smell, but it fades. Then I suddenly remember the boy I refused to name, who's a part of me, but whose name, if Mommy gave him one, I do not know. Soledad rises from the chair and unplugs the shaving shears, wipes them with alcohol, and puts them away in the drawer. She reaches into a cabinet, retrieves an old ragged towel, and hands it to me. Go on, shower and wash your hair with that shampoo, Flor. I watch as she walks away, only now noticing the way she walks, with the slightest limp favoring her right side. How long have you been here? I ask. 5 years, she says, taking a deep breath. She turns and stares at me again, and I can't help but wonder if she's looking for someone in my face. But what she says is, you must always remember your name. Say it to yourself. You can't forget who you are. La Bastilla, the wind. A lot of people on the other side, they will try to make you forget. They will try to erase you. But you must always remember. It is Flor. I nod. That's who I was. That's who I can be again, even if I am no longer Pequena. I walk to the bathroom, lock the door behind me. I check to see how much I'm bleeding. Hardly at all. My Maybe my body is magic. Maybe my body knows what it needs to do now. Maybe I'm not who I was. I look at the warped image in the plastic mirror in the bathroom. My shaved head. I look nothing like Pequena anymore. I reach into my pocket, gather the bits of my teeth that rolled around my mouth, like sharp, gritty dirt, and I wash them down the sink. Here I leave more of my hair. Here I leave bits of my teeth. Here leave more of who I used to be. And there, somewhere in the face reflected in the mirror, is who I'll become once I cross the border. Somewhere inside me, Flora waits to be born. Each night we are there. Soledad sits on the couch by the window. That's where she sleeps, like some kind of lookout for those who might come stumbling in the middle of the night. For 7 days, we watch her nurse Chico back to health, making him special meals, shearing his hair carefully, and washing his scalp in the sink. For 7 days he sleeps, and Soledad tells us it's the best way for his brain to rest. A train comes and goes, then another, the whistle shrieking as it passes us. We have to go back on it soon, Pulga says anxiously as we sit outside. As we watch those on top of the train heading north and we stay in place. We can't stay here forever. We have to go. I know, I tell him, anxious to leave, too. When the man who delivers food to the shelter tells Soledad the train headed to Matias Yoromio is supposed to leave the following day, Pulga and I tell her we'll be leaving. But why? Chico says. The color has returned to his cheeks. His eyes have lost that vacant stare, and he leans into Soledad as he looks at us. She smiles and puts her arm around him. We can stay a few more days, can't we? Pulga shakes his head. We have to go, Chico, or we'll never get there. Chico shrugs. So, I'll just stay here with Soledad, he says. Looking over at Soledad, her shiny cheeks smiling. A look crosses Pulga's face. I know this is exactly why he wants to leave. Soledad looks at Chico. You can stay here, but this is my life, just this, day in and day out. There's no future here. Besides, Pulga says suddenly, you're not from here. You don't have papers. Mexico doesn't want us anymore than the United States does. You would be an immigrant here, Chico. If you try to work here, live here, whatever, Mexico will deport you right back to Ray. The sound of his name again, tossed around so casually, reminds me of the reach of him. Would he guess what we've done? Would he send someone to find me? Would he come himself? We have to go, I tell Chico. His face falls. I know, he says. There is silence in the room, broken only as Soldat takes a deep breath. You know what? I'm going to make you all a feast before you go. How does that sound? She looks at Chico and he smiles back at her. And right then and there, she hurries to the kitchen and starts cooking. She boils chicken and somehow, from very little, makes 100 falatas. She uses the broth to make fideos. She makes a red salsa, and the smell of jalapenos and tomatoes filled the air. She makes a green salsa. The tang of their tomatillos and cilantro is on my tongue before I even taste it. She makes beans, adding extra cheese. She whips fresh cream. I watch her the whole time, and I swear I see a glow, like she is outlined by light, and I begin to wonder if we are dead and Soldat is a ghost. I begin to wonder if she's my bruja incarnated, or if I'm dreaming, if any of this is real, as we eat food too good to be made by human hands, as we sleep a sleep so deep, it seems like a spell. But the next day crashes and in the early morning we are heading back to the tracks, where we'll wait. Soldat walks us to the edge of the shelter. I'd walk you there, but I have to stay here in case anyone arrives, she says to us. She won't leave this place, not for a moment. So we say our goodbyes right there. And it takes all I have not to sob, and she holds my face so gently like a mother would her child, and says, Cuídate, mi hija. And when you make it, send me a word. I'll be here, but I'll be waiting to hear from you. Don't let me down, you hear? I nod, and when we hold each other in a tight embrace, just for a moment, I let myself pretend we are our mother and daughter, and just for a moment we are. She hugs Pulga and Chico. La Bestia calls to us, and we turn to leave in answer.